Again, it's Political Vigilante. I'm here with John Kiriakou, ex-CIA. Now, I've covered the Epstein case.
Yeah.
And I've talked to several people who say there's clearly ties with Mossad, with the CIA, and this global sex trafficking ring of, like, I don't know, ruling elites. It sounds pretty horrifying and spreads pretty wide. Your experience with the CIA, what do you think of this? I mean, first of all, I don't think he killed himself at all. I think either somebody killed him, one of the powerful people that's in his black book, or the CIA extracted him. I don't know. What do you think?
The day that he died, a friend of mine at the CIA called me and he said, "This has to be the Israelis, right?" And I said, that was the first thing that came to my mind. This has to be the Israelis. I'll give the Israelis credit. They are really, really good spies. Really good. You know, my first week in the CIA, we had a briefing by the director of security. And he gave a talk about counterintelligence. That is foreign countries having spies in the United States. Now, we have liaison relationships with dozens and dozens of countries, and they are what's called declared, where they come to the United States, they work in their country's embassy in Washington, and they are declared to the CIA as intelligence officers. So in the Israeli embassy in Washington, there's a Mossad officer and there's a Shin Bet officer, and they officially do liaison with the intelligence community. But the security director told us there are those two declared Israeli officers. The FBI has been able to identify 187 undeclared Israeli intelligence officers all around the United States, stealing secrets every single day. One of the things that the Israelis are really good at is influence operations. Now, in part, it's because they have a natural constituency in many Jewish Americans or evangelical Christians who are pro-Israel. They're predisposed to helping Israel in the first place. But that's not always good enough, especially if you're an intelligence service. So what a good intelligence service would do would be to sit with your operations officers around a table and say, how do we get to the very top of the pyramid in this country, to the very top of the political leadership? We need an access agent. So who is out there who knows presidents of both parties, cabinet members of both parties, members of Congress, prominent bankers, people in entertainment? How about this guy, Jeffrey Epstein? So we can fund him. We can finance him. We can introduce him to some business opportunities to make sure that he has an income that's great enough that he doesn't have to just rely on us. But we recruit him and we get him to introduce us or to give us access to all of these important people. Well, you look at Jeffrey Epstein's black book, and these people don't get any more important. You've got the Clintons, you have the Trumps, you have Prince, what's his face from the UK. You've got leaders in entertainment and business and banking and investments and real estate. And I mean, everybody who's anybody was in that black book. Well, that's an intelligence gold mine. That puts whoever recruited him right at the seat of power. So who would have, or what organization would have the wherewithal to do something like that? The Russians are good, but they're not that good. The Chinese aren't interested in that kind of thing. All they care about is science and technology. And for all intents and purposes, that really only leaves the Israelis. So I believe from the very beginning, this was an Israeli intelligence operation, and it went bad. And it went bad because he was a deeply flawed individual. He was a pedophile, and he was a sex addict. And he had a way of just getting himself in trouble. Now, you can get yourself out of trouble once, maybe, which he did in whatever it was, 2006. But he just couldn't stop. He couldn't stop himself. And he got in over his head.
So that's fascinating to me. So we know from victims of him and, you know, testimony and all this, that one of the things he would even brag about is, you know, his modus, his MO was, you know, bring some wealthy, powerful guy to one of his mansions. The butler would say, "Would you like a massage from a beautiful young woman?" She would be a child. They would have sex, and he would have video on this, and he would have leverage on the person. Like, he was deliberately gathering leverage on people. Which, first of all, who was he getting that leverage for? You seem to think it's Mossad. And secondly, where is all this information's been seized, apparently. Where is this? And why is the media now just, Ghislaine Maxwell is still referred to as a socialite and his gal pal rather than a pedophile sex trafficker. So how do you assess all of that?
You are absolutely right. I don't want to sound too cynical, but it seems to me that because this thing reached up to the very top, I fear that the fix is in. You would think in any other circumstance, every reporter in America would want a piece of this story. Because imagine the titans that you could bring down with evidence like this. And we're not really seeing that. We see a couple of fleeting references now in the Washington Post and the New York Times. And if you want a little bit more detail, you have to go to, Rolling Stone or Gizmodo or Salon.com or whatever. That shouldn't be the case. The whole country should be seized with this story, because I think grave crimes were committed here, and the media's not covering it.
Yeah, because it was a global. It wasn't just like some single. It wasn't just like, it was Penn State University or this one Catholic church or this is the whole plan. I mean, this is leaders from all these powerful countries, the royal family, the Saudis, Israel, the U.S. Like you say, presidents on both sides of the aisle, bankers, all these people, and it is just quietly, William Barr is focusing on these bungling guards at the prison who fell asleep, and the camera just happened to be unplugged. I mean, it just sounds like a joke.
Yeah, it's a joke. I wrote a piece for consortiumnews.com in which I said I didn't believe that he committed suicide, or if he did, he was actively encouraged and perhaps helped to commit suicide. But for this to have been a legitimate suicide, literally everything at every step of the way would have had to have gone wrong. So do we really believe that the cameras just happened to be not working, or the guards just happened to be exhausted from too much overtime and didn't do their rounds, or he just happened to have been taken out of suicide watch a couple of days earlier, or his cellmate just happened to be transferred out the day before and he was literally the only guy in the prison alone in a cell, right? MCC Manhattan is not a normal prison. It's a transportation hub. And it's meant not to permanently house prisoners, but to house them only long enough for them to go on trial or be transferred to another prison. So there's constant movement in and out, constantly, of prisoners. If anything, there are too many people in your cell. You never find yourself as the only person in a cell. But he did, and we're supposed to just take their word for it that it was just a coincidence.
Yeah, so obviously... But you look at that and you don't think the CIA was involved in this?
The CIA, and I don't think they're smart enough to be able to pull something like this off. And the thing is, the CIA, when it really comes down to it, the CIA's real mission is to collect foreign intelligence. They just don't and can't target Americans like that. That they got caught doing it in the 70s, and they paid a heavy price. This has to be a foreign intelligence service, and I think the Israelis are the only ones good enough to do it.
Okay, well, let's talk a little bit more now. You made a hypothetical statement, or you said, and you can explain this better than I can. We talked a little bit about before we started recording about would the CIA be capable of getting children for people just to get leverage on somebody and stuff like that? Can you made a statement, and can you discuss that?
Yeah. 2 years ago, I gave a speech at a peace conference at American University. It was a speech about ethics and intelligence operations. And my main point was, if you are a CIA officer or you want to become a CIA officer, you have to enter into that job with your own personal set of morals and ethics, because ethics are not taught, ever. Under any circumstances. There are no training courses that are going to teach you right from wrong, or what's ethical and what's not ethical. And so as part of this speech, I asked a hypothetical question. I said, let's say you're a CIA case officer, an operations officer, and you've recruited a penetration of a foreign terrorist group, whatever you want, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Hezbollah, it makes no difference. And you meet with this source every month in a hotel somewhere in the Middle East, and this guy has proven to be the real deal, right? He's given you actionable information that you have used to disrupt attacks and save lives. So you know that this guy is the real McCoy. You vetted him, and he always tells you the truth. So you go to meet with him one night in Cairo, let's say, and he says to you, look, I've been good to you. I give you everything you ask for. I always tell you the truth. Now you're going to do something for me. You're going to go out and you're going to get me a prostitute. I say, let me see a show of hands. How many people would actually go out there and get him a prostitute? And usually about 3/4, maybe 80% put their hands up. And I say, the answer is yes. You would go out and you would get him a prostitute. It's not nice. It's kind of scumbaggery, but your job is to deal with scumbags like this. It's for the good of the country. You would go out and get him a prostitute. What if he asks you for a child prostitute? And everybody kind of, gasps. Maybe once in a while somebody will gingerly put his hand up, and I say, absolutely not. Not under any circumstances. This is a child, for God's sake. I said, if you don't know right from wrong at this point in life, then you're a sociopath and you need to find a different line of work. And I said, the problem, though, is that nobody at the CIA is going to tell you no. Nobody's going to say, you know what, that's not cool. We've got to draw the line somewhere. Nobody's going to say that because they want the information, they want the recruitment. Your job is to break the law anyway. You're not doing it in the United States. Yeah, it's a terrible world we live in, but, blah, blah, blah. But the answer is no. Not under any circumstances. And then somebody in the audience, for whatever reason, ran home and wrote an article that John Kiriakou confirmed that the CIA procures children for their sources.
Right.
And that's not at all what I did.
Yeah, you didn't say that, but you're saying it's within the realm of possibility that it has happened because there's nobody going, hey, stop.
Correct. Yes. It's within the realm of possibility. Now, we know that this kind of thing happens. We know that because in the former Yugoslavia, a group of contractors from DynCorp, I think it was arrested along with several United Nations officials for doing exactly that, for trafficking in children. We know that it's happened in Somalia. We know that it's happened in South Sudan. So, yeah, there are bad people out there trafficking in children and in, a modern-day slave trade, really.
So how much, because DynCorp has definitely come up with ties to Jeffrey Epstein. I mean, do you think that there have been CIA that have done this in some way with Jeffrey Epstein and any of the people that he's clearly gone after to try to get leverage against?
I haven't heard that. It would be highly unusual for a CIA officer to be involved with an American citizen like Jeffrey Epstein. If Jeffrey Epstein had been recruited by an American intelligence organization or law enforcement, it would be the FBI. The CIA is prohibited by law from operating operationally in the United States. They cede everything to the FBI. So that's possible, but unlikely, because the FBI, they all have sticks up their ass about, following the law. That's why I believe this was the Israelis, because the Israelis don't care about U.S. law. Just like we break the law overseas, they break the law here in the United States. And I think that if they believed that would get them information or proximity to a target, especially a president, I think they would do it.
What do you think about Ghislaine Maxwell, whose father was like with Mossad? I mean,
how much more perfect could that possibly be, right? Mm-hmm. There's so much smoke here that there has to be some fire. I want to come back to something that you said too. Why is she still walking around having lunch, at In-N-Out Burger, reading Ted Guff's book on the CIA? Why isn't she behind bars or sitting in a chair in front of a grand jury? I don't understand this at all.
Yeah. What did you think? What did you make of that? That that, and some people say, oh, that photo was staged, it was photoshopped, or they shot it ahead of time, but whatever, it was sending a message. She's sitting there with this smug smile reading a CIA book. I mean, what is that? Is that saying, haha, CIA, Mossad wins, or what was that?
Yeah, I think that was a slap at the federal government. She clearly did that on purpose. I don't think it was photoshopped. I think that was a legitimate photo that she had staged. And I think she did it as just a big middle finger to the whole USG.
Wow.
Well, yeah.
Well,
and who would have the guts to do something like that? If I was facing human trafficking charges, I wouldn't goad the federal government into coming after me unless I felt protected. I think we need to get to the bottom of that too.
How do we do this? I mean, because as we've talked about, they've sort of the press has sort of waned from it, because who knows how many CEOs of media corporations are in his black book, and they're telling the reporters, cover it else, or just cover it this way. Or we've got William Barr, who I don't trust. Like, how do we get to the bottom of this when it's like the most powerful people in the world?
Yeah, there are only two groups that could possibly get anywhere with this. One, obviously, is the Justice Department. And like you say, we can't trust Bill Barr to do any of this. For all we know, Bill Barr is implicated. We don't know. And the other is just really good journalists. I don't think we're going to find those journalists at the Washington Post, the New York Times, and the Wall Street Journal. I think that we're probably going to have to look to alternative media, real go-getters like BuzzFeed or the Daily Beast, or people who are hungry. Otherwise, I think that, and I hate to even say this, but I think that a lot of this is just going to end up being covered up.
Sadly, I think you're right. Well, John, thank you so much for spending time with us today.
My
Where
pleasure.
can people follow you online or read any information you're putting out there?
Thanks. Yeah, I'm on Facebook and Twitter. I've got a website, johnkiriakou.com. Thanks for having me.
All right, everybody. Well, go to johnkiriakou.com, and also support this show. Go to patreon.com/Graham Elwood and rockfin.com/Graham Elwood, and you can get all my tour dates and everything at grahamelwood.com. Thank you so much for watching. And John, thank you for taking time today.
Thank you.